Actually, it's when Joe Rogan beat with his own father on
Joe
YouTube.
exposed his own terrible father.
My real father was crazy. He was like a psychotic person.
It strangely became a TikTok beef.
You lied about me. Your father. You owe me a big apology.
You'll need a bit of
What?
context. Joe was born in August 1967 to Joseph Rogan Sr.
Call him out.
and his mother Susan Lembo. As a child, Joe thought his dad was awesome.
Well, at the time, I thought that my father was like a hero. I think every kid thinks like that about his dad, especially if your dad is like an imposing figure.
But at the age of only 5, his parents got divorced, at which point Joe and his mother moved to San Francisco, where she remarried, giving Joe a
So, did he pay alimony?
stepdad. Meanwhile, his biological father, Joseph Rogan Sr., lived his own separate life as a cop in New Jersey, leading him and Joe to completely lose contact. But as he entered his teens, Joe realized his father wasn't exactly a hero. In a 2015 Rolling Stone interview, Joe explained, "All I remember of my dad," he says, "are these brief violent flashes of domestic violence. But I don't want to complain about my childhood. Nothing bad ever really happened to me. It was just confusing, you know. He was just a
I mean, he's only 5, so
very violent, scary guy." After the
I'm
split,
actually surprised he remember all
we
that.
moved to San Francisco
And
that
the 5 years of age.
it. Never heard from him again. It was further mentioned that Joe really would rather not discuss the topic, made apparent by its lack of discussion on the podcast. For the first 4 years of the Joe Rogan experience, he never once mentioned his biological father. But all of this changed on episode 118, when Joe began to expose exactly who his father was.
All my damn came from my real father before I was 7. My real father was crazy. He was like a psychotic person.
He explained some of the worst things that his dad had done.
He beat the out of my mother.
Like he would be the type to come
He
home
beat
like,
the out of my
"Fuck's my dinner?"
cousin.
Really?
Yeah, he beat my cousin up. He picked my cousin up by his hair, threw him in. He was a big guy, big, scary, crazy cop from New Jersey. I got to see worst case scenario, someone who just can't keep it together, women.
Further adding in the Rolling Stone interview, "When I was 5, I had a fight with one of my cousins. Punched him in the face over something stupid. My dad pulled me aside and I told him the truth of what happened. He said, 'Did you cry?' I said, 'No.' He said, 'Good, don't ever cry.' I mean, he was happy
What is this advice?
that I punched my cousin."
He didn't give a that I was in a fight. He just wanted to make sure there was no crying
That is,
in the street. It was
that is not
intense.
great advice for a 5-year-old.
I was
That is not
punching
loving.
everybody after that. I was like, all right, you're getting punched. It was so stupid. It was like the worst way of raising a child ever.
At this point, however, Joe was barely famous, and as a result, his father won't respond directly to the allegations. All he will say is, "I don't talk about people the way they talk about me. That's not in my DNA. What's gone is gone." Despite his father
Okay, that's a good attitude, I
denying the
think.
allegations, Joe had clearly been through something.
There's something about like seeing someone you're close to who's an adult beating up like a 10 or 11-year-old. You ever see that before?
To the extent that it changed who Joe was as a person.
Is there a violent person in there?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of violence in me for sure. I don't know if it's genetic or learned or.
Your mom and dad broke up early on. Is it connected to the dad at all?
I'm sure it's connected to him also because he was violent and it made me feel very scared to be around him. But I also think it's connected in who he was as a human is transferred into my DNA.
In the meantime, Joseph Rogan Sr. had 2 twin daughters, automatically making them Joe Rogan's half-sisters. One of them told the Daily Mail, "I was 19 years old when my father told me about Joe Jr. He was not even famous yet. He was a comedian and did a show called News Radio. We looked him up on the computer and emailed him asking to meet and explained that his father would also like to meet him. Joe did respond, but not kindly. He referred to my father as a sperm donor, so my sister and I backed off and never emailed him again. Joe clearly had no interest
And that's stuff.
in reuniting with his father.
Did you ever want to meet your dad? Did you ever see? You know what's funny? My mom.
I mean, I met him. I knew him until I was like 6.
Instead, using the experience as a learning lesson.
Who is this Mario
It
guy?
made me realize that you can't count on people, but you can
Then
count
that's
on
trust
some people.
issues,
But
man.
I definitely had
That's
trust issues for a long
right
time,
there.
But become someone that people count on.
But while Joe thought his dad wouldn't see what he had said,
My parents, like regular people,
Your
no.
parents don't listen to the show. They got shit to do.
No, they don't. But if they did, they're boomers. They're
course.
full on.
It turns out Joe Rogan Sr. had always been watching. Conveniently, after Joe had made hundreds of millions of dollars, his father and her
In for the money.
sister went public via
That's a classic.
TikTok.
So for all you Joe Rogan fans out there, Joe's been telling his side of the story for 27 plus years. Now it's time for the original Rogans to tell our side of the story.
It begins with Joseph Sr. first calling his
Oh, there's a screens.
son out.
Lied about me. Your father. Tired of it, Joe. I just had enough. You couldn't handle me. 81 years old. You couldn't handle this guy right here. And when you said I beat up women, how could I get away with that? You lied. We all know you lied. You owe me a big apology.
Whilst his
Yes, his dad never sends.
half-sister supported that their dad did nothing wrong.
Joe, you were taken away at a very young age. Unfortunately, you did not
I mean,
get
of course, he's in for the money. But
to grow up with the man that we were fortunate enough to grow up with, that my kids are fortunate enough to grow up with.
They try to make it seem like they simply wanted to talk.
Come here, sit down, and me and you talk. That's it. I won't tell nobody what was said. I'm a stand-up guy. I ain't like you making up stories so I can make
do a podcast, bro.
money.
However, money seemed like the more obvious motive.
You got all the money,
Yeah, no shit.
everything, but you know what you don't have? You ain't got two balls.
I love when I see the comments. They just want the money. They want the money bag. I have a box, Pandora's box. And if I open it, Joe, things would get really ugly.
The video concluded with his father stating
A what box?
this,
Family is everything.
leading him and the daughter to get mercilessly
He
roasted.
actually sees him.
Family is everything. The guy who left his kid. Son, now that you're worth 500 million, I want to fix our relationship. His dad was silent for 27 years about this. He conveniently waited until Joe Rogan was the most powerful voice in the country and worth 110 million to come back into his life and square everything up. If it was about blood, he would have been there 50 years ago making things right. Despite the heavy backlash, Joe's family doubled down, stating on a press tour, "Growing up, my sister and I just had such a happy childhood. I just can't tell everyone enough what a great father we have. God has blessed us," she said. "My father has never been violent ever. That is why Joe Jr.'s claims are such a shock to us. My father has never
Maybe she's a victim too.
even raised his voice to us. He is the epitome of a wonderful father." However, a podcast episode they did shortly after again portrayed the opposite. Joseph Sr. introduced his son like this.
As he was growing up, what did you notice in Joe?
He was soft.
Soft?
Yeah.
It's soft in what way, sir?
He wouldn't get involved with people, and he wasn't a tough kid.
And then proceeded to state,
Everybody out there, I'm gonna tell you straight up, Joe's full of shit in plain English. He went to drama school. You can see he's a drama queen. Everything is drama to him.
if he's that crazy at 81,
Drama queen.
I can only imagine when he was 40. He then accuses his son of being
He even couldn't give a straight
Joe
face.
has sugar in his tank?
I'll bet on that.
Did you see signs of that when he was young?
Long time ago.
Did he ever show interest in girls?
I didn't see him much since he was 7 years old. I didn't even know what the girl was.
But it was clear that his father was simply bitter.
I think the wrong thing they did was give him that number 1 over his head. If you look at his head, it got bigger. His head got bigger than his head.
Despite this, Joseph Sr. still wanted to meet his son, stating, "I'm on my way out. I'm 80 years old. I'm in the rearview mirror, but I would like to see him. I definitely would sit down with him because he needs to listen to my side of the story." However, calling Joe out made this way less likely, because recently, when Bert Kreischer asked Joe about his father, Joe refused to give the topic attention.
Wait, is your dad still alive? Yeah. Is your dad still alive?
Yeah, allegedly.
Positively, however, it's made Joe a better person.
Because I watch my kids I watch them, I talk to them, I communicate with them. I didn't have a good childhood. So for me, it's important to be a good dad. Talking to them, treating them like I'm not just their dad, but also I'm their friend and I
Okay,
care about them.
that's good.